And we are live.
All right, I'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. And Brother Bob, would you lead us in prayer?
Yes. Our Father and eternal God, we come very humbly before you this afternoon to ask you to have mercy upon all of us. Now, Lord, we ask you to bless us, that we be able to take care of the business of the city of Thomaston, that we look out for the best interests of the citizen, oh Heavenly Father. God our hearts and God our mind. In Jesus Christ we all pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right, I'll take a look at the minutes from the last meeting. Any additions, corrections? I would like to tell you that I was at the meeting and I'm not in the minutes, so you might add me.
I saw that, yes.
Okay, all right. So just add me there as conducting the meeting.
And I believe I was not at that meeting.
Correct.
Just switch the name on there.
Yes, that's
Be good. All right. I thought you did a good job.
Sound like
Yeah. Any questions on the minutes from the May 20th meeting?
no, I wasn't.
Okay, all right. So if no questions, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes for the meeting.
With the corrections.
Yes, yes.
with the name switch.
All right, got a vote to change the minutes of the meeting and to approve them. All in favor? Opposed?
Can I get a motion? The first
Yes. You didn't make the motion?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
I
Did you
just
make
was
the motion?
questioning that it with the correct, we were approving
Right.
them with the correct.
Okay.
one? Yes. And
So,
I'll email
okay,
those
so
out.
who wants to make the motion to approve the minutes with correction? All right, Richard. And second?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Vote again? All right, good to go. All right. Today, if you're on the program or would like to speak, I was asked that you come to the front so we can get you on camera when if you have anything to say. So when we call the rezoning request, we'll just ask you to come down front when we discuss it. All right, first thing, let me introduce Ms. Oasis Nichols, the Deputy City Clerk, Mr. Bobby Ellington, Mr. John Baxter in the back, Ordinance, and Code Enforcement Officer. So if you don't know them, if you got a question that we can't answer, you can go through them, you can ask them. We've got several dignitaries here today. We got our mayor, we got the city manager here. So. All right,
Councilman.
city councilman out there. So, all right. First rezoning request is of Stonewell Worship Center. Pastor Coleman Dumas has requested that the property located at 204 Park Lane, 5.706 acres, be rezoned from R1 to R2 in order to add a child care program. And you all got your packets. I hope you've looked through there. You familiarize yourself with that, and you know where it is, obviously, on Park Lane. So the way we will conduct this is we will ask Pastor Dumas if he would, in just a second, if he would like to come forward and speak to the zoning board. Anybody got a question about this so far? Okay.
This is about the child care thing, right?
Yes, it
Okay.
is. This one is, yes, right. Pastor Dumas, would you like to come forward and speak, please?
Good morning, good afternoon, board, and everyone's here. I just wanted to say that this is something that we really think that's a need for the community. We hope that you all would notice that so we can get it moved from R1 to R2 so that we can establish this for child care. So that's what we want to just try to do, that, get that done. Appreciate your time and your consideration.
Okay, and you can be seated if you like, and but if we got some questions, you might stay right there. So, anybody want to ask any questions about the request.
I have a question. Rezoning from, you want to go from R1 to R2 rezoning for a child care center. If I'm not mistaken, I would like for you to correct me if I'm wrong. If we rezone this, you want to open up a daycare center, how are you going to open up a daycare center if you're not having service in your place of worship?
I'm having service at my place of worship.
Oh, you don't went back into the
We've
sanctuary?
never stopped. We've had it outside, but we're now inside now. So we've never stopped from, been going for a whole year and a half on the property, so the properties have been remained active.
You never stopped. You continue to have worship service, but you
Yes.
hold worship service on the
Outside.
Outside, but we've gone back inside now.
Okay. If this board rezone it, you know there's a lots of things that you have to go through. Running a daycare center,
Yes, sir.
people, I guess, get in contact with the state and people that run this daycare center. I'm pretty sure they're gonna have to be checked out to do a background check.
Yes, sir.
And we don't want to rezone it with one thing and for a daycare center and it end up being something else. We don't want a bait and switch thing. I have received calls about this as people in the district that I live in have gave me their input about this. And I'm not here trying to rain on it, but my job is, as the mayor and city council appointed me to this board, to look out for the welfare of the people, the citizens of Thomaston, especially the district. So there are some things that I'm pretty sure some members of the board can ask. Some criteria got to be met. Maybe some other one they would like to ask, but honestly,
You have a name.
There you
it's just some question just unanswered, and I just feel a little uncomfortable moving forward with this item today. But I just only have one vote. I have seen something like this before, because a friend alerted me about he seen something like this also before. So we're not saying that you would do anything like that, but I just feel a little uncomfortable about this rezoning right now. That's just how I feel as a commissioner.
May I address?
Yes, sir.
Everything we have done to this point has been very transparent. We see a need in the community. There again, even when church doors were closed, we continue to do ministry outside. We have continued to feed the community. Even during this time, we've been every branch of the community. We've been parks, we've given school supplies. So everything that we have done has been for the betterment of the community. I don't know anything about a bait and switch, but anything that we do, we've always opened our doors for anybody to come in and check it out. Anybody that's with children, we do know across the board, you have to have background checks. And we'll make sure that all those things are done.
Is it gonna be a building?
We're using, yes, sir.
Just gonna use the
The
church?
church.
And you want to rezone all the property,
Yes, sir.
the whole 5.7 acres?
Yes, sir.
And the church is sitting on how, is it
Roughly,
parceled out or anything?
no, sir.
It's not. What about capacity? How many children do you think you would take in?
No more than 50 to 60 kids.
Really?
Yes, sir.
For how many hours a day?
We're going to try to do it from 6:30 to 6:30, extended hours.
Okay.
Families who work at the mill
Well-
start, have schedules.
Yeah, help me with this now, because I know for daycare centers, there are exemptions for, I don't know, if you're K through 12, so what ages are you talking about?
We're just doing ages right now, just starting out between ages 1 through 4.
Okay. So do you have to get the state credentials to do
Yes,
this?
we've filled out all the state credentials and things of that nature. We've had the fire marshals and all those to come, so we've filled out everything as far as the state. We've actually gone to that point, to this point to be rezoned.
They looked at your building?
Yes.
They have approved it. If you got anything in writing about being approved to do this stuff already?
So, I'm Deidre Foreman. I'm standing in as the consultant to help get the church license. So what will happen is we will go through right from the start, which is the licensing company that does licensing for daycare centers in the state of Georgia. Once we have gotten the church, the approval from you all to rezone, the fire marshal, they come in, they do their permits to get everything going. We turn that paperwork in to right from the start, who then will come in and do their assessments. The total number of kids that can be in there will be given to us from the state. And that number will be based on square footage for each classroom that will be used. Once they come in, they do their assessment, then they'll give us the license, give the approval for that child care center to be run. As far as background checks and people, that's a must. Anybody that's on the property working for the center has to have a up-to-date background check. And those things will be governed through right from the start. They come in twice a year to do licensing checks.
That's right.
And to make sure that
that's a state agency, correct?
Yes.
That's what I thought.
Mr. Chapman, have the objections or concerns that you've heard from people in the community, have they been to the opening it up to R2, or have they been objection to a daycare center?
Objection to the daycare center.
I was going to say we could do some conditional if the objections were to it being R3.
Yeah, I had thought about that myself, and that's about the only way you could send it up the line, really.
If we condition it?
Well, we're not that far yet, I don't think, unless, I got another question. You have to have continuing education for all your employees, and they have to be certified. So I think it's like 40 hours for the director, and then 10 hours a year. And you made plans to get all that taken care of.
Yes.
And you working on that, okay? So, I mean, on its face, it looks like it's a good idea, and then I commend you for wanting to take care of the community in that way. And but however, you know, if there's anything other than a daycare center you have in mind, you know, we need to hear it from you now. So
that's all we have in mind, is for a daycare center.
Yeah, and
you are getting objections to there being a daycare center, is that right, Mr. Chapman?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
But I just only have one vote.
this is called a commission in your area. Isn't that right? Isn't that what you call it? Instead of a license, it's called a commission. Have you?
It's a license, a child care license.
Yeah. Okay.
A license to run a center in that building.
Somewhere in my research, I saw where they were, and you may run across this later. Don't know. Okay.
And if I can add, I also am a director at a child care center in Bill County that happened to have started out of a church. We shut down during COVID for the church, and we shut down the center. But we reopened the center before we opened the church. It's not in the same area. It's not in the congregation area, and not in the sanctuary area. It was in its own side. Mm-hmm. So we were able to reopen the child care part without reopening the church. And that building, or that child care center, was in operation for over 15 years out of the church. We merged with the second site that we had that was off-site from the church, and that's the only reason we're not, still at the church. But we started out with the child care center in the church, through right from the start, and that's all it was, a child care center.
Troy, you joined us late. Anything you'd like to add? Anything you'd like to ask?
Not really, I'm just, getting in, just picturing it, and then still going through my notes, making sure that everything is down to what the procedure need to be, and then hearing a bit, what Pastor Chapman, he was talking about, it was just, his one vote, and, I'm just make sure that everything is, like it's supposed to be. And I'm still like, one mind here, one mind is there.
Mm-hmm.
Just trying to make sure everything fits in to the situation. Make sure everything is covered. And that's what I want to see. And child care center, that's all good and dandy. And making sure that it is done exactly like it's supposed to be.
Right.
Yeah, and I think if you under the state, I think they're pretty strict.
Yes, they are. Very strict.
Very strict. So, I mean, I'm not concerned about that part. I mean, we just need to make. If you got any more questions, anything you'd like to add, any of you?
Is there anyone from the community?
Yeah.
that,
Anybody would like to speak? Anybody else? I was going to ask that.
Concerning the child care here, I would be interested in knowing why there's an objection to child care.
No one? Okay. So, I'll call the vote if it pleases everybody. So, I'd like to hear a motion from somebody. If you want to rezone the property, and by the way, R1 to R2, the difference is in the R2 you can do a child care facility, in R1 you cannot. And so, any discussions about a motion? Anybody want to? Got any questions about a motion about this?
I motion to accept it.
So make the motion that we approve the rezoning. All right. Now, it's a lot involved in an R2 as well too. So you mentioned something about conditional. So would you want to
We've used
inform the
that
board?
a fair amount in recent years,
Yeah.
and it does take away the wide open
That's right.
options of R2, and anytime you make it less restricted. If we did a conditional with the condition being that it for R2 for use as daycare or nursery, I'm not sure how the word in the nursery, Mr. Bobby, in the ordinance.
Mm-hmm. Nursery, school, kindergarten.
Yes. Would that be satisfactory for the
Yes,
for
sir.
the church?
More than satisfactory for us.
I wish there had been someone here from the community, and I appreciate your passing on, but I would hope that if there is that big an objection, I wish someone from the community would be here to speak and let us know that. And I'm trying to also see what the objection, in my mind, just trying to figure out what the objection to daycare might be. It's not a.
You say it's kindergarten too?
It would be ages 1 through 4, but I think you're saying under that ordinance it could be that as well, that restrictions.
So, sir.
Well, we've got a motion.
Got a motion.
So,
You want
and there is the possibility.
Go ahead.
No. Again, I get back to stating there that we don't open things just wide open if we put a condition to it.
And if someone from the community wants to speak, they can still come to city council, correct, Mayor? Okay. Still got that opportunity. So do you want to put the conditional on your motion?
That'd be fine.
Okay, so Richard made the motion to rezone the property from R1 to R2, conditional that it be the daycare center only. That's all you can,
R2 to be used as a daycare
R2.
facility. Right?
Okay. All right, got a motion, do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. All right, let's vote. All right, all in favor of the rezoning, say aye.
Aye.
I mean, raise your hand, I can't see you with the mask on.
Mask.
Okay, all right, all against? All right, so we have 3 in favor and 1 against. Motion carries.
Thank you, sir.
Congratulations and good luck to you.
Thank you all.
All right, you want to go about this? So, we've got the authorization of ordinance 1158, amending the definition of major streets. And I read through this, and I assume that it had always been this way, but can anyone in the room explain to me why this is having to be brought before the zoning board? Okay, come on up here, please.
Mr. Chairman, the reason we're here today, any modification to Section 98 of the City of Thomaston Code of Ordinances requires that it come before the Zoning Commission before the City Council considers it. After the presentation, you all have 30 days to issue a report. However, I'm hoping for a recommendation to agree to the amendment. And the reason is as such, in the current R3 zoning, it makes reference to 50 foot of frontage on a major street, major as being defined and delineated on the city zoning map. If you take a picture or if you want to look at the city zoning map, you'll see that it's not delineated on the city zoning map. Therefore, we have a little bit of a conflict, not so much a conflict as that the cities, historically, we have deferred to the Georgia Department of Transportation's map where they classify roads, whether they be principal, arterial, minor, collector roads, et cetera, et cetera. So the purpose of this ordinance modification is to clean up the existing zoning ordinance to put a clarifying definer on what the word major means. So by reference in the ordinance modification, we're actually referencing the Georgia Department of Transportation's map, which you can go to through that link. You click on a road and it'll tell you if it's a principal arterial road or if it's a minor collector. So for purposes of zoning, we wanted clarification as to what major road actually meant. This ordinance takes care of that. However, the city council procedurally cannot consider the ordinance modification until it has went through the zoning commission. Staff's recommendation, if it pleases the board, would be for a motion to approve the proposed amendment so that it can be submitted to the city council for their consideration. Do you have any questions about that?
What do you mean by 50 feet?
50 feet. So if you want to build something in an R3 zone, the way the current zoning works, you have to have 50 feet of frontage on a major street, right? So we have to define what major means. Historically, the precedent has been used to mean anything that has control over GDOT, right? The state highways, but it's not denoted on the zoning map. So this modification clarifies what major is by referencing Department of Transportation.
And you titled this an ordinance, not change, but what was the word you used?
It will be an ordinance modification,
Modification.
right? So anything that we do in Chapter 98, which is the zoning ordinance, has to come before the zoning commission before the council can approve it.
And the city attorneys looked at it, I'm sure.
She drafted it.
Yeah,
Yes,
okay,
sir.
I figured everything has been done.
Yes, sir. We were going to stick it on the council agenda, but then procedurally, the proper channels is to come through zoning before it goes
Okay.
to city council.
And you would want a motion from this board.
You have, the ordinance says you have 30 days to consider it and issue a report, so you can take as much time as you want, not to exceed 30 days. But if you see no issue, staff's recommendation would be to authorize the amendment so that we can stick it on before the city council and have their approval.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we amend the zoning ordinance to clarify the definition of major streets.
Okay, I got a motion from Ms. Kersey. Everybody understand what's going on? Okay, so anybody, any discussion? Second?
Mr. Chairman, I second the motion to that.
All right. Robert Chapman, second. Sandy Kersey, motion. All right. Any more discussion? All right, we'll call to a vote then. All in favor of the authorization of the amendment, raise your right hand, or left hand, whichever region. All right. Passes unanimously. Okay. We have a rezoning request from the City of Refuge, and they've been before us before, but don't have a representative here today. And Nichols is telling me so. I went to the City County Planning Commission meeting last week, and he was there and spoke, and I sort of got an idea. So I'm speaking to the board here on this. He wants to rezone 90 acres behind the City of Refuge, and actually behind that and Zaxby's. So you know the road that goes up beside Zaxby's and the church, that's a city road, as I understand, a city street as I understand it. Well, church owns that property, and they want it rezoned to R3. Now, Ms. Oasis, you helped me with this because you just dropped this on me a while ago, and I didn't get to refresh my memory. They want to build some multifamily housing over there. They want an office complex, and an equestrian center.
In your packet, there's the scope of work that they presented, I guess, at a luncheon they had. It's basically their PowerPoint. And it just has, I think they want to do a couple cottages for, I guess, the farmhands or the people that the caretakers for the horses. And they want to have, you know, a small barn and a few horses there. And they basically want to provide, it would be a equestrian center / multi-use playing field with basketball courts, volleyball court, archery range, shooting range, climbing walls, zip line, rope courses. And then they'll serve kids, veterans, church groups, you know, law enforcement, emergency and fire, scouts, sports teams, stuff like that.
All right. Well, this is not, if I'm not mistaken, Bobby, would you stand and come in and just brief the board on what? Now, they want to change it from an R2 to an R3, okay? And so after the meeting the other night, and I don't want to let that weigh on your decision, but I want you to know we discussed something the other night, and so where are we on this?
The joint board had denied the request, which I think there's people.
Oh, yeah.
If you want to hear people.
Yeah, okay. So, but we talked about the R3 zoning and
Correct.
what issues that brings about when you go to change a zoning to R3.
Right. Certain stuff that he's applying for, you have to have certain road frontage.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no road frontage on this
Okay. All right.
request.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. Thank you. All right, anybody here that would like to speak? Gary, come on.
That's basically what I would want to address, listening to what Russell had said about the definition of roads and things like that. In R3, any principal use building, regardless of the number of dwelling units contained therein, shall not be required to front on the street. So they could go out there and put 500 buildings out there if they want to, because they're not required to be on a public street.
Mm-hmm.
So this
Once
recommendation.
the change is made, once it's R3, you're not required.
R2 has to be on a public street.
Okay, all right.
R3, you can put it says, any principal use building does not have to be on a public street. So out of an 80-acre tract, there could be a lots of principal use buildings, whatever they are, houses or whatever they are. The whole thing could be covered up without being on a city street or a public street. No, this tract has, I think, 5 accesses off, existing streets, but no streets in the actual tract. So they could put anything they want to. If it's rezoned to R3, they could put anything they want to, any number of buildings, any number of houses, any number of principal use buildings, and they don't have to be on the street. That would be my problem in not knowing exactly what they're doing. I've looked at their plan, and their plan shows certain things on it. Okay, but that's not, the R3, that just because they showed that plan, that does not limit them to their plan, their particular picture. They don't have any kind of a survey on it. It's just a picture. It's what they showed here the other night. They showed a picture of what they wanted to put, stables, and 2 houses, a principal house and another caretaker's house, I think. But that, just if you rezone it, you don't know what's going to happen because, unless you say, like you did with the other one, conditional, that you can't put anything else on there except what you put on that picture.
Does the 90, I may ask you a question, does the 90 acres have any road frontage on it?
Yeah, it has 5 accesses.
You said that, and I don't see them when I went to the map.
Well, they touch the back alleys, the property touches the back alleys, which is city property. It has 1 major access off of 19 between the church and Zaxby's. There's a street in there, and that's their major access right there. But it touches the back alley in a lot of different places, which is city streets, if you want to call them that. They belong to the city. So you have access to the city, by going on to those back alleys. But my problem is not necessarily that. My problem is if you rezone it R3, you're going to they can put whatever they want to, any number of structures. So that's the reason I'm opposed to the R3 zoning.
Okay.
Excuse me.
Anyone else like to make a comment? Yes, sir.
You don't go ahead.
Oh, you go ahead. I'm sort of.
You're through.
All right. Thank you. My name's Jane Burdett. I live in Silvertown. And if anybody knows me, they know I'm an advocate for Silvertown. I'm taking a little bit different approach to this because there's been so much, so many rumors, so much misinformation out there. What they are proposing, from what I've seen, is very non-invasive. Being able to have some veterans come and do some therapies with the horses and whatever. From what I've been able to research and what they've proposed, doesn't seem to be a large-scale operation. My concern is, I do applaud them for their work. They do wonderful work. Their board of directors is top-notch. They have other places in the country. They don't bring people in. They don't house people. If they can't use their property, and I think some people took as a threat, they said, well, we've been approached by developers, so we may leave. Well, here's my concern, and my concern for Silvertown. Silvertown is sort of under attack from all directions because of the frenzy of the land buying and all the people moving in and the car counts and all that. Would I rather see the property used in a less invasive way and in an outreach type situation, or would I rather see, if they leave, that will go to the hands of developers? Not only will that church be torn down, and either probably a grocery store or a shopping center there, and all the trees will be torn down, and there'll be a housing complex all the way up to Hannah's Mill. Now that's my perception. So that's why I would, and I do live in Silvertown, And I would prefer that it be approved in order to allow them the outreach. And as I understand it, there's nothing they can't do right now that they couldn't do if it was changed, except to have some veterans or the children come in and have the, pardon me, I'm a little nervous, the horse therapy there. So that's why I would be in favor of approving their request. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Waller, would you like to speak?
273 R Street. This guy, he just wants to open it up for multi-purpose home and just not have nobody telling him what to do. He has not submitted any plans, not did an environmental study, he's not did impact study, he's not did a water sewer study or anything. He's not did a topo map. He come here the other day at the meeting and all he had was a picture of the barn, which was a horse barn, which we feel like in our neighborhood, that's gonna end up just being a shelter for the homeless people that's living back in there now. They're gonna wanna get out of the weather and everything, and they're gonna be getting up in there and to get out of the weather. But the other thing is, it's just not conducive or compatible for the neighborhood that's there now. You know, it just doesn't match anything. If they want to build some recreation areas, and I commend them for the things they want to do for the children. If they want to build their places, let's let them have some property out by the civic center or the county and city own property out there. And if they want to do that, why not put it out there, you know, where other people can use it too? And as far as our other concern is the homeless situation here has gotten worse since they put the sign up, City of Refuge. Now, whether it's coincidental or what, but I've had people knock on my door on 3 different occasions wanting to know who they could get in touch with at the City of Refuge. And I tell them, you know, we don't know what's going on, what they can do or anything. But that is our biggest concern. Like I said, it's just not compatible for that community. And one other thing, I was told at the meeting last time that he would have to put up a sign and advertise it for 2 weeks before he had this meeting. Is that not correct?
It's 15 days prior to the public hearing at the city council meeting, which is scheduled for September 21st.
He'll have to put up some signs saying this is going to be rezoned.
The city will post a sign on the property.
He has an option to go before, if this board denies it, does he have the option to still go before the city council?
I believe it still goes before
Oh,
city
yeah.
council.
But that's the only time it's got to be advertised is before it comes to
On the
city.
physical property, yes, sir.
And he's been secretive. He hadn't been, you know, forward with none of us with any plans or tell us what he's going to do. He hadn't come to the neighborhood people out there, talked to them, or done anything. He had a little luncheon one day, but just gave people the 2-day notice, and a lot of them was out of town and not able to attend. But other than that, without some detailed drawings, and he just wants to be turned loose with multi-family dwellings. And the other thing that I have thought about, if it's zoned for R3, and he mentioned the other day that he's had some developers to come to him to ask him about the property. If it's zoned R3, the price of that property is going to go sky high, and you know, and we all know what a developer is going to do. What's going to keep him from selling the property once he gets the R3 zone? That's our biggest concern.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Well, not get to moving too fast here, but just to fill you in a little bit, we've had this situation before where, with the same property here, where they wanted to change it to a C2, and then you realize if you do that, then you open the gate again, and so we stopped it. Mr. Self, yes, sir.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear my name and address while ago, and I don't live in the city, but I do have property in the city, and I pay taxes in the city. This property, it's an 80-acre tract, and if it goes to the City of Refuge, which they own it now, according to the tax assessor's office, I've been trying to find out how much taxes is paying on the property now. It's under the conservation CULA right now, so it's not paying the major part of the taxes. But if it gets, next year, if it's owned by the City of Refuge, they ain't gonna pay no taxes.
That's right.
And they use city improvements, city water, city sewage, city fire, city police protection, and they pay no taxes on the 80 acres. Now that's, if they were to cut that off, leave that other property taxable, that might be something else to think about. But this 80 acres belongs to the City of Refuge now. Next year, they'll pay no taxes at all. And then if you give them R3, they can do anything they want to. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Well, I was about to say that it's not our place to just offer our opinion, but I do think, before we get to moving too fast on this, I do think in a situation like this, someone at the city or someone on this board needs to contact someone in another city where they've done the same thing, and just to see what kind of operation they've got there, and without just giving them approval and letting them go in there, but they'll have to go to the city council if we, whichever way we vote, if we move it up the line, then they would actually have to deal with them. But at the same time, I was at the meeting last week. I'm just telling you what was public record. He said that, well, if we sell it to a developer, you're not going to be happy about that. Well, if it goes on the tax digest, I think somebody would benefit from it, but as it stands right now, they are paying some taxes on it. So having heard everything that's been said today, and thank you all for your comments, it helps us a lot in making our decisions. How do you feel about this? Any discussion on this? Anybody want and it'd be fine to just say tell us, what you know about it, or the unknown is basically what I'm tending to want to steer clear of. Anybody?
I'd like to ask Mr. Bobby if he can tell us what they can do right now as R2. In other words, if they sold it right now, if they can't get what they're asking to do, and then they sell it to a developer, what can they do now with R2?
Under R2, medium density residential, within an R2 medium density, they can use the following. The same as R1, one family dwellings of no less than 800 square feet, two family and multi-family dwellings, no less than 600 square feet, boarding houses.
This is R3, right, Bobby? You read
This is R2. I'm asking him,
R2.
I'm asking what they can do now if they sell that. They
Yeah.
presently zoned R2.
Yeah.
If they sell it to anybody, an investor, a developer, I want to know what they can do now.
Boarding houses, rooming houses, cemeteries, nursery schools, kindergartens, any building housing more than 3 dwellings units shall front upon a city street. And this is specifically allowed in R2 residential district.
The reason for them wanting R3 is to,
Do away with that?
is
Well,
to,
it's multifamily residential district, hospitals, clinics, human alignments, and it just goes on. Nursing homes,
So they basically
principal
be able
use
to be
buildings.
zoned to get their business license to do all that also.
What are they designed to do now? They want to just open the park, or they want to do the housing
I don't really know. for
Nobody knows.
plans.
See,
That's what
yeah,
happened.
they don't have
I'm
enough
just telling you what
detail
was
for
on.
us to really
We
make a
made
decision.
That's
If-
right.
They are, it's adjacent to a good R1 community there. The R Street, Silvertown area goes on around, does it go around to North Goodrich, I believe, doesn't it?
It does.
So it-
Then it backs up behind Walmart, Zaxby's, and Sunset Hill.
So presently, they can put a number of housing units there. Somebody can.
Right, as it is.
A number of housing units can be put there presently without, nothing can be done about that, as long as it meets all other.
All those streets, from Sunset Hill and, those streets.
The difference is they have to be on a major street in R2, R3, they don't.
I didn't think it was Major Street.
Well, any street,
Yeah,
any
yeah.
street in R2, it's gotta be on a street. R3, they don't have to be on a street, they can just put willy-nilly.
What could be done there right now? Huh? They could put a lot of houses, up to
Right.
3 families per house, right? Per dwelling.
Two-family multi-dwelling can be there now.
Just
All the-
two families.
I thought it was 3.
No, the three-family
That's an
is
R3.
R3.
Okay.
Uh,
So duplexes,
I'll be, I mean, if you want to.
okay,
I got-
duplexes can be put there now.
Right, two-family and multi-family dwellings, correct, in R2.
But like I said,
Again?
they have to put new streets in R2. R3 don't have to put any streets in.
Who pays for the streets?
R3 don't get no streets, R2, each dwelling has to be on a street. So they have to put streets in there.
At their expense.
Hmm?
At their expense. That's
Right.
what you
Yes,
asked.
absolutely, at their expense. City won't accept the street unless it's curved and gutted and paved.
Okay.
Again, would something like, if they were conditioned to do something here less objectionable to the community, would that be better than letting them have full range of whatever R2 allows?
I mean, I can't say that.
Yeah, okay. That's my question. In
You-
other words, you see the question I'm asking?
Yeah.
You know, with us doing absolutely nothing, and the city council then doing nothing,
They can do what they want.
they can, I just, again, was wanting to know what can be done there now. And it may be something more objectionable than what the city of Refuge wants to do. And I'm not, you know, I mean, if I were to vote for anything change over there, it would have condition on it.
Mhm. But
The
again,
R3 though gives them multiple.
yeah, you hadn't seen any plans.
Not with a condition,
Huh?
not with a condition, could.
Well, why would he want, if he's not wanting multiple housing, why would he want to do it R3? He can do everything he wants to do right now under the code.
That's,
He's got,
he can.
Okay,
That's
so
my
what-
understanding.
Correct.
Basically, it might have, yeah. The last time this came before us, something came up about the location of the caretaker's house or something. It all got down to location of a house,
Well,
about having to be on the street.
well, at this point right now, you don't have a certified set of site plans. You don't,
Right.
no plans has been submitted to us. You don't. It's unknown.
Yeah, and I wish somebody was here to tell us what they wanted, why they want it to be R3. And we asked the question before. And we were told by the representative, I don't know whether it's correct or not, but we were told by that representative who was here from City of Refuge that the city told them that it needed to be R3 to do what they wanted to do. And it had something to do with about a street. I mean, it wasn't Major Street, but it was.
who, what you say, somebody's gotta know who it is.
Our city manager's here.
The city doesn't tell any applicant what they need to zone the property. Anybody who's interested in rezoning a property should hire their own counsel, review the law, and make their own determination. Our council made a suggestion of R3 because the R3 zone included the therapeutic rehabilitative aspect in the zoning, which fit more in line with what we envisioned they were going to do with equestrian therapy, whether it be for veterans, school kids, or not. It wasn't a perfect fit within the current zoning.
Okay.
The R3 was more
That's
conducive.
beginning to ring a bell there now. Thank you, Russell.
Now, I got a question that, let's go back a little bit. When you were saying about the layout, about what you could put on it, did you say, Mr. Bob, something about, they were saying about like a nursing home, something like that?
No, well, under R2, you know,
What
that
we on now? Mhm.
that you can do that.
Right. Okay, because what rings a bell in my head on that is if they did that of a nursing home, it might be a cover-up for a home for the homeless or whatever else that might.
Not nursing home, it's a nursery.
Nursing.
School.
Yeah,
Nursery
nursery school.
Nursery school, oh, okay, all right.
I think that under
Which now-
Thomaston's comprehensive land use plan, we don't have enough information here, guys, to make a decision today. I'm sorry. I'd hate to put this on the council and then we hadn't done any research on it.
Right.
And so where it lands today on the R2, you know, if he decided to do that, then, you know, it's just too bad. You know, it's his go, you know, but if you put a condition on it, then you gotta know what he wants to do, Sandy, first of all.
Yeah.
Which, going back to what Troy was asking, it's got a front on a city street, so just keep in mind, you know, you're limited for what you're talking about.
Do they get to count the church on the city street?
I don't, the church.
Church is
not on
R2.
This church is not on this.
This
R1.
track is not in this track. is it?
No,
Okay, no, I'm okay.
but the church
This is
is what,
just-
R1 or R2?
R1.
R1.
This is just the tract of land where I
Behind it.
think the
Yes,
conversation today.
Mr. Chairman, may I say something?
Yes, sir?
Hearing from people from both sides of the one that's supportive of it and some that's not supportive of it. I'm an old country boy. And I do my best to try to do what is right. Let's look at the citizen of Silvertown. Some of them have worked their lives, worked hard and retired. The only thing they do is sit around and relax and go fishing and go hunting or whatever. They want to enjoy their days. They can't enjoy their days when they let other people come in and want to put something up in the community they work so hard for. That's a historic area. Let's keep it and preserve it. But when you start letting other people come in here to do things, they say for this and end up for that right there, it's gonna ruin the neighborhood. I dropped the ball on something, and the other item we was talking about, 'cause I have so much on my mind dealing with the daycare. I dropped the ball on that because something I should have mentioned that I shouldn't mention. But it gonna probably come back and I pray that it don't hone us down. We approve the daycare. I know I'm supposed to touch bases on it. I'm just gonna see. Daycare are peoples that want to do away with R.E. Lee name. I'm a rebel, and I was born a rebel. I'm a die rebel. We cannot let these people over in Silvertown come in here and open up this thing, whatever they want to do for veterans or whatever, and mess up the lives of the one who worked so hard in these textile mills, other places, like that young gentleman back there retired. Brother Kudawala from the Georgia Department of Transportation. You allowed to wake up one morning and find somebody on your front step you don't know nothing about.
Already done.
See, we don't want that to happen. And on this board, and I pray
that we may table it. And maybe I hate to kick the can down the line, but we don't need to move on. And I pray that when it lands in the hand of city council, the mayor and the council, they do what is right. Let's do what is right. Reserve, protect Silvertown. Don't run it. We'll mess it up, my brothers and sisters, and we'll allow these things to happen. Please don't do it. Silvertown is a beautiful place. Beautiful people, kind people.
Let these ladies speak right here. Thank you, well said. Yes,
I
ma'am.
didn't mean to get into a sermon.
I know I missed my chance with the public.
Come on up front.
But I just want to ask a question that I've not heard addressed. I grew up in Silvertown 100 years ago. We would ride our bikes down in the wooded area behind our street. Martha Mill had a trash pile. Had real good hopscotch glass if you could pick it up. And I have heard rumor that somebody who owned that property behind our street, all that, wanted to build houses, but the EPA would not approve it because Martha Mill maybe dumped toxic waste. Whatever they had, that was their property. Whatever they had, they dumped there. Has City of Refuge done an EPA study whether they can even put anything back there because of the trash pile?
Now, what she just said, that what I was finna get to that there, because why in the world they would want to build something and it was a dump or wasteland and there's toxic back there, and then you try to build something, then explosive and something out there, and then damages the area over there, and see, they want to push in and see, that's what I had a problem, and that's touching about what you just said. You know, all these people that are retired over here in Silvertown, and then, like I said, went on Coach Cooter, they're on his front porch. If somebody might be on there sitting, he already said somebody done been on there.
That's what I say, if y'all approve, whatever you approve, and he goes ahead, has he got to pass EPA standards at some point? And they may nix the whole thing. And all this work is for nothing.
Well,
I've not heard anybody question that problem.
I think it came up at the joint meeting, possibly. I've heard it. I don't know
The
where.
first one, maybe it didn't
Yeah.
come up last week.
Okay, well, all right then. Anyway, point well taken, and I see what you're saying. I think it's not our place to direct him as to what he's got to do. He will find out, you know, what he's got to. He should already know, but he hasn't brought that forward. I mean, we haven't seen any plans. We haven't seen any kind of work done, you know, pre-construction or anything like that. And I just feel like, just speaking personally, because everybody else has got an opinion, you know, I couldn't feel right about putting something on the city council if we didn't understand what they wanted to do. They're not here today. Nobody's here to speak. Well, you spoke about the community over there, but I mean, I just don't feel like it's time to make a decision on this. And that's, if you guys feel the same way or you feel a different way, just let me know.
Or we both put it down
Table,
the road
you're
or
suggesting we table?
Yeah.
table that.
For more information?
Yeah.
That's right.
I'll make a motion that we table this here till we find out more facts, more information about this here, and what's going on, because if I got a whole bunch of lot of information and stuff,
Yeah.
you still gotta dig up.
But you want to hear every side too.
Right.
You want to hear him in here and then see what he's got to say and be fair about the thing, you know. So, but with your motion on the table, I'll entertain.
How long we tabling for?
Can I make a comment? Nate?
Just a second, Mr. Wall. You made the motion to table it. So will anybody want to second that? You want to discuss that?
I'll second the motion that, and maybe get in touch with the people to try to
Right, get in
let
touch
them
with them, though. We
get
gotta
back to
find out
us
what's
and
going
tell
on.
them we need more information.
Yeah.
Need more information.
Okay.
All right, so we got a motion to
Now, I'll second.
the table, a first and a second. Let's vote on it. All in favor of tabling, right hand? All right, unanimous. Thank you.
Mr. Bobby, is that land that they're talking about there, as far as you know, was that the dump area?
I've heard stories, but there again, I'll refer back if we get a true site plan.
Yeah, I can guarantee you
Get soil
it's a dump
conservation
area.
involved to do
I've
the
been
site
down
study
there.
and everything.
Yeah, I've been down there. When I was in high school, I worked for several places, and anybody knew to go down there and dump stuff, but the mills did the most of it, I think.
With the site plan, if we disturb more than an acre, soil and conservation, they'll do all their complete study, they'll prove it, deny it, whatever. I mean, we'll send it to Barnesville. If there's a true site plan, we haven't seen a true site plan.
Yeah, okay.
But if once we see a true site plan, I will, for land disturbance, we'll send it to the Barnesville Soil and Conservation, but we haven't received it.
Well, I mean, you gotta do that if you're gonna move forward with it. So, I mean, maybe they could figure out how they're gonna, bring it back to us and so, but that's what they need to do. They
Because
just-
there will be a land disturbance, so it's
Okay.
got to be approved by the.
Okay. All right. So,
Just-
Mr. Waller, did you want to make a comment?
Yes, the biggest thing is he can do exactly, if he comes and gives you a site plan for now for what he wants to do, he can do it, no problem. But he wants multi-purpose housing.
Yeah. Well, that's
So
what
why
we
can't
want
you
to.
just deny that and forget about it? We don't want multi. I'm sure y'all don't want multi-purpose housing.
Well, we don't know. I don't know that. So, where it stands right now, he'll have to come back.
Who's gonna ever know that, Steve?
Well,
But if you don't.
if it's conditional,
if you do it-
if we recommend it and it's conditional, it will have to, and the city council agrees, then that's all they can do when we see what he wants to do. Am
I'd just
am I right?
like to see something that protects the community. If nothing less restrictive, and what would I be in favor of? But I'd be in favor of something conditional that the community was satisfied with. The Silvertown community was satisfied with, with a condition to allow them to do, if they can come up with that. But, I would not vote for an R3 that allows them to just turn it into a, but they can do what they
I thought
can
that's
with
what
R2.
I thought that's what was in, but to go to R3.
That's what his request is.
Yeah.
But we
Why not
have,
deny?
the board has several times over the last few years, had stated that we would allow, we didn't want it to be wide open where somebody had a blank check to do whatever they wanted in the future with that land.
That's what it's going to do under R3.
And we have then, under those circumstances, we have put some conditions to it with the approval of the person applying for it, that then allowed what was good for the community to go forward.
Yeah. Well, that's sort of the mantra of the board here with the comprehensive land use plan. It's got to benefit the community, number one, the city, obviously, and the people in the area. So once that someone can show you that it's going to be a benefit to those three, then zoning, obviously, you've got to take a closer look at it. Does that make sense?
No.
If we deny it today, we could very well wind up with the Silvertown community having something that is very objectionable built back there.
What? Not, anything couldn't be built now under R2.
That's what I'm saying. There's a lot of things can be built under R2 that the Silvertown community would not be happy with, is what I'm saying.
Sure.
Therefore, if you can come up with some sort of condition with this city of refuge to something that is less objectionable than what they can do with R2, then we ought to be open to at least thinking about that.
If you could say in that condition that he had to show what he wanted to do and cut that section out of that 80 acres and block off and leave the rest of it alone, you know, that might work. But he hasn't shown exactly, all he's shown is a picture of what he might think he wants to do. Well, holy smokes.
But I'm saying that a denial right away could make them sell the land, pocket the cash, and then the developer comes in there and does things that are worse than what he wants to do.
Well, R2 would stop him from doing a whole lot of things. R2, you know, could do it there.
That's
Where we are right
They'd
now.
have to put a lot of new streets in on 80 acres, and it's gonna cost like real to put streets in there. R2, you gotta put streets. R3, you don't.
Right. All right. That done. Any other business? No? Well then, I would sure accept anybody's motion to adjourn. I'd like to make that motion.
I move we adjourn.
All right, Sandy, a second. All in favor? Aye. Meeting adjourned. Thank you all for coming.
Oh, yeah.
Well,